This is the exact location where the body of an unknown person who became infamous as the Somerton Man was found. In today's video, we're going to be looking at this true crime in great detail, and I'm also going to be taking you to a lot of the locations that are directly related to this unsolved mystery. Hi Crypt Keepers, thank you so much for tuning into AmysCrypt. Today's video is going to be a very new type here on my channel, something a little bit different because we're going to be taking a deep dive into a real true crime case, and this one is known as the Somerton Man or the Tamam Shud case. On the 1st of December 1948 at around 6:30 in the morning, the body of a man was discovered along Somerton Park Beach in South Australia. Now the body was actually discovered by people who were making their way casually along the beach, and then it was reported to police who came to inspect the body. This was the exact stretch of beach that the Somerton Man was discovered dead. Now he's reported to have been laying on his back with his head propped up against a sea wall. Now guys, the sea wall doesn't actually exist anymore. There's just all these rocks that you can kind of see behind me. But he was kind of laying here propped up with his legs extended out, and his legs were actually crossed. Now it's interesting to note that people kind of reported that it looked as if he had died during his sleep. And in fact, there was a couple of people that had witnessed him in the area the night before he was discovered and noted that he kind of looks like he was either asleep or drunk. So they didn't approach him, they didn't want to mess with him because it was late at night. In addition, this man actually had a few things on his body. So he had a number of cigarettes on him, but they were all different types of brands. He also had one unlit cigarette, which interestingly sat on the right-hand collar of his coat. The guy also had some matches on him. He had an unused train ticket from Adelaide to Henley Beach, as well as an unused bus ticket from the city. They also found a comb and a packet of juicy fruit chewing gum. Further notes on his body, which were acquired from an autopsy, was that he was a white male, approximately 40 to 45 years old. It's also interesting to note that his feet were almost molded in to a point. So like his toes had been crushed from constantly wearing pointed boots or shoes. He also had abnormally large calf muscles, which are quite similar to people who do a lot of dancing or bike riding. As far as clothing went, this guy was pretty well dressed. So he had a shirt on, a jacket, pants. He was missing a hat though, which was quite odd for the time. It's also been noted that his jacket was tailored in a style that was very popular at the time in America. Now, one really odd thing about the clothing that this man had was that each and every tag on the clothing had been removed and cut off. This guy also had no wallet on him, so no form of identification, which all kind of fits into one of the theories about who he was and his death. The autopsy performed on this guy's body was able to identify a couple of abnormalities. So he had an enlarged spleen, he had excess blood in his liver, and there was congestion in a number of the organs in his body. He was found to have eaten around 4 hours before his death, and his last meal was a pasty. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically a savory pastry that contains meat and vegetables. Though no poison was found in the man's system, it has been heavily speculated that he probably died from poisoning. Because no one came forward with this man's identity or having claimed to know him or saying that he was missing, police actually took a full cast of this man's upper bust. It's essentially a death mask, but from here on up. Now guys, today that bust is still in existence and it is on display at the South Australian Police Historical Society's museum. I did actually plan with them to go and visit the bust, take some photos and film it. Unfortunately, I'm currently on COVID lockdown, so I can't even leave my house right now to go for a walk. So that kind of got cancelled, but I do have some images that I can show so you can kind of get a feel for what this bust looked like. A short time later, on the 14th of January 1949, some more evidence that was linked to this case was uncovered and just provided a few more clues. It was here at the Adelaide railway station that staff discovered a brown suitcase with its label removed that had been checked into their cloakroom by an unidentified person the day before the Somerton Man's body was discovered. This suitcase was later linked to the case. Now, this mysterious suitcase was found to be linked to the Somerton Man, and it did contain a number of items that were kind of interesting to the case. So the suitcase was found to contain a dressing gown, pair of slippers, 4 pairs of undies, PJs, shaving items, brown trousers with sand in them, a screwdriver, modified table knife, scissors, a couple of other items. But the item that linked this all to the body was this special thread. And this was very uncommon here in Australia at the time, but it was the same thread that was used to sew and fix like a small pocket on Somerton Man's actual trousers. Again, all of the clothing in this suitcase had the tags removed from it, very similar to how the tags were removed from the Somerton Man's clothes that he was actually wearing on his body. There were a few leads though. There were some laundry tags that were in the suitcase or left on some of the clothes, and the names on these were Keen or T Keen, spelt differently, but they didn't really produce much success in figuring out who this man was or his identity. This wasn't the only strange clue to be uncovered around this time, which was at the same time of the inquest into this man's death. So a piece of evidence was actually located on the man. Here, a very small piece of paper that had been rolled up was found inside a sealed kind of secret pocket on the man's trousers. And it is very, very interesting that this piece of paper read Tamam Shud. Now those words, Tamam Shud, they actually translate into finished or ended, and they're actually the last words from this book, which is the Rubaiyat. Now police were very interested by this new clue, so they put it out into the public and said that a small piece of paper missing from the back of this book, the last words written in this book, was found on this unidentified man. Unbelievably, this campaign was actually successful because a man came forward with a Rubaiyat that he had found in the backseat of his car, and yes, the last words appeared to have been ripped out of the Rubaiyat. Now, this was actually linked to the piece of paper found on the dead man, and it was a supposed match. There is a lot of confusion around this piece of evidence though, like how the Rubaiyat got into this man's car, his link to the case, or even really who he was. But it is said that his car was left parked along Jetty Road and unlocked. He came back to the car one day just to find the book sitting in the back seat. So just behind me is Jetty Road, and as you can see guys, today this is a very busy, very bustling place, and I'm going to assume that it was also back in the days of the Somerton Man, because this is at the very heart of Glenelg, a popular suburb here in Adelaide. But the car where that book was found was parked here, just down Jetty Road, and it remains a mystery as to why or how the book got into the car, but all that did was add intrigue and interest into this case. So for a lot of people, this finding kind of led them to believe that the Somerton Man may have committed suicide, and that is because the last words of this book, the Rubaiyat, meaning finished or ended, plus the meaning of this book, it's basically translated poems, and it's all about kind of living your life to the fullest. So I guess it seems a little bit poetic, right? Even though it is quite strange. Here is where an extra layer of mystery gets added into all of this. The book that this man brought forward that was connected to the body actually had some scribbled handwriting inside of it. And these scribbled handwritings, it was just a few lines, but it appeared to be some kind of code. Now to this day, no one has been able to crack this code, no one knows what it means, and no one has been able to figure it out. Now, along with these strange apparent codes written down in this book was also a phone number, and this phone number ended up belonging to a young nurse named Jessica Thompson. It turns out that Jessica Thompson lived here on Mosey Street, which coincidentally is only a few hundred meters away from the beach where the Somerton Man's body was discovered. This of course was of great interest to the case, and police did follow up on the lead. So this lady was interviewed by police, but she actually didn't end up being much help. She stated she didn't know the Somerton Man, she had no idea why her phone number was in that book, she had no idea why this man was in the area that she lived when he died. She also really didn't want to be linked to this case in any way, so her actual identity was kept secret for a long time in relation to this case. I do need to note here though as well that Jessica Thompson was taken to sight the Somerton Man's bust, and allegedly some of the people who witnessed her sighting the man's bust kind of came forward and said that it really seemed strange, her interaction with the bust, almost like she actually knew the man, and when she sighted the bust she kind of, you know, reacted in a very physical way that almost looked like she was about to faint, and then after initially viewing the cast of the man, she would not look at it again, and it was like she could only look away. That isn't really proof of anything, and it's just like an observation and has led people to speculate a lot about her relationship, or, you know, whether she even had a relationship with the Somerton Man. But I guess it would be a very strange and odd experience to have to go and cite someone's casting, like their death mask. Though she was a nurse, so maybe she had experience with things that were kind of like slightly gory. So looking into theories, the first and I guess the most popular is that the Somerton Man was actually a spy. And there are so many strange elements of this case that kind of tie in with this. Just all of his clothing missing its tags. That's one way that a spy could kind of cover their tracks. Then you've got all the strange circumstances related to the death, the, you know, apparently being poisoned but not being able to find traceable poison in his system. And then of course you've got the Rubaiyat with this strange code that no one has been able to crack in decades. Adding into this whole spy theory was kind of like an expose that 60 Minutes did in more recent years, and they did interview Jessica Thompson's daughter, and she believed that both her mother and the Somerton Man were spies. She also believed and speculated that her mother actually lied to the police and she did know the Somerton Man. She claimed her mother had actually told her before that she actually knew him. Another peculiar thing that's worth noting as well is Jessica Thompson allegedly could speak Russian, and no one really knew where she picked it up from, but she would go and teach English to Russian migrants who had made their way over to Australia. Another more recent theory about the Somerton Man comes from Derek Abbott, who is a professor at the University of Adelaide. So he really dived into this case like hardcore, very, very deep. And he's kind of brought forward a theory that speculates, you know, Jessica Thompson may have had quite a close and intimate relationship with the Somerton Man. So he actually found that Jessica's son had a very similar ear structure, and he had the same genetic disorder that affected the teeth as a Somerton Man did. So having this, you know, similar ear structure and very similar teeth, it was found that basically it's a 1 in 10 million chance, you know, of having the same deal. So he speculates that maybe they had an intimate relationship and that Jessica's son was also the son of the Somerton Man. Of course, this is all unproven, so they would need to kind of exhume the body and do some kind of genetic DNA analysis to figure this out. And there has been some work done to try and get the Somerton Man's body actually exhumed. So we have just arrived at the West Terrace Cemetery here in Adelaide, and that is where the unknown man, our Somerton Man, is buried. So we're just gonna go through the cemetery and see if we can find his grave. This place is massive, so bear with me. Today, the Somerton Man is at rest here in the middle of Adelaide in West Terrace Cemetery. So just behind me is his grave, and it is pretty simple, marked by a very, very simple though humbling headstone that reads, "Here lies the unknown man who was found at Somerton Beach." And it's kind of an interesting place to visit because so many people are intrigued by this case. There's even a historical marker here that has his face, his post-mortem photograph on it. So I don't know, it's kind of nice to wind down the video and finish it here, like paying our respect to this unknown person. Alright, I would love to know what you guys think. Do you have a theory that you kind of lean towards, or maybe one of your own? Have you ever tried to crack this code? I had a look at it and I'm totally rubbish at that kind of stuff, so I don't know. But please let me know, or maybe have some interesting other notes to go with this case, or anything else of relevance to kind of add in. Please leave me a comment below. I'm also really dying to get some feedback on this type of video. Did you guys enjoy it? Do you want me to do more true crime? Because I can, and I have a couple of other cases that I would really love to do. I initially actually planned this to be almost like a two-part, where I do the first episode as a kind of true crime like I have just done, and then a follow-up episode where I actually visit some of the locations from a paranormal perspective and kind of try and reach out and, you know, get more evidence or clues towards the case. It's not going to happen anytime soon for this one because I am in lockdown again due to COVID here in South Australia. But maybe that's something that you want to see, so if it is something that you want to see, please drop me a comment below and let me know. Maybe there's some other cases that you would like to see me cover. Please drop them below too, too. I'd love to hear from you guys. Plus, I just want feedback on this new true crime series in general. But I do want to say thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you want to do any more reading about the Somerton Man, head to my website, AmysCrypt.com. You guys can also follow me at AmysCrypt on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I also post bonus videos and content over on my Patreon and YouTube memberships. But thank you so much for watching, Crypt Keepers. Until next time.